Here's how you can extract the maximum value out of DRE using the Analytics tabs. Let's go! In this video, I will run through all the analytic tab options that you have in DRE to try to teach you what you're going to get out of these and when you should use them. First up, we have the track map. This track map is a circular track map. It indicates all the driver positions currently. You can see right now we have some drivers out on track circulating around, and we also have a few drivers in the pits. The green ones are the ones that are currently off track. So the naming and coloring have a few different meanings, and you will learn that along the way. If you forget all of this, you will also have the small information tooltip. Apart from the driver names moving around on the map, you can see that I've split the track in the sectors that are provided by the sim, and inside each sector there are some mini sectors as well. The sectors and the mini sectors are color coded. Whenever you see something like this purple, this mini sector is in an improving state. Right now on track you can see it's actually raining, but it's just started raining, so the track might not be that wet, and this sector could be improving. Some of them are really yellow and even red, and whenever there is a strong consensus from the mini sectors in one sector, you can see the entire sector is also colored. This gives you a brief overview of how the track is doing overall, and it allows you to go down into the deeper levels and see individual mini sectors, how they are doing right now. This also gives you an early indication of weather, incoming weather. If it starts raining in one of the mini sectors, this sector will start becoming slow. And if there's rain on the radar, if DRE detected rain is shortly approaching and there are one or two mini sectors that start going towards yellow or red, DRE will start saying that the rain might actually be here even before the sim officially announces that the track is actually wet. So for each of the sectors and mini sectors, you can go in and drill down into the details. You can see the overall optimal lap times was set. That was a 2.067 seconds. And right now they're doing 2.9. Over time, a slow moving average indicates that it's 2.2 seconds. So the track is right now actually doing worse than its running average. And that is what informs the overall sector health indication shown here as a percentage. So all of these mini sectors, they feed back into the sectors, which then feed back into the overall track health that you can monitor up here. You can see it's 56% right now. And this is due to the entire track being wet. But not only the track is wet, it's also the racing line that's wet. DRE has deemed that even though the sim just says that it's wet on track, DRE believes it's actually very wet because, as you can see in the background, the cars are actually going off. But that feeds into the algorithm trying to say something like, okay, generally the track is in one condition, but it's different on the racing line. Mind you, if there's rubber on the racing line, it is really slippery. You'll have the brief overview here of everything going on the track. This is especially useful coming into a session before heading out on track. You can see which sectors are right now affected by the weather, but it's also really nice to have an overview of where the cars are. For example, in a qualification session, if you want to go out on track in a clear space, this lets you do it. So let's head out on track to see a few extra things. Once you go out on track, you can clearly see where you're located on the track. So you're circling around with a bounding box attached to your name, so it's quite easy to see your position. One thing I've not mentioned yet is the update rate of the track map. When you run the free account, you'll get one update per second. But as you climb in the subscription tiers, the rate will also increase. If you decide to unlock to a higher subscription tier, you will be able to see a pit exit position indicator. That means that you can see where you are expected to exit onto the track after you've done your pit stop. The position is fully affected by the time it takes to fill fuel and change tires and everything. Whoops. So you can see our name turned green. It depends on the current theme of the app, but it actually is quite useful. Which tires am I on?
You're on dry.
That explains. Next up is the Evo or the Evolution tab. This map shows you the current lap times being set, placed on a timeline. Use it for finding out whether the track is improving, it's in a steady state, or becoming worse to race on. You can quickly find out if it's just you who feel slower or if it's the entire field. A few things to notice immediately. All the dots are color-coded. This means that whenever it's red, it means it's a soft tire. Whenever the sim supports multiple dry tires, they will be color-coded accordingly. When it switches to a wet tire, it will switch to the blue. So what you can see here is that some of them are circles and some are triangles. And that's because the circles are lap times set during dry running. That means no rain and the track is not deemed wet. When it does rain or the track is wet after a rain shower, lap times will change to triangle. That makes it easier to find out why lap times were increasing, for example. I've actually found that in the initial phase of a rain shower, the track is improving. You can see it here, there's a tendency towards the lower lap times, up to a certain point, and then it rises again. On top of this, you have these lines where DRE attempts to predict the trend that's currently going on. You can clearly see the track is deteriorating, even though the ones that were doing wet tire lap times are also increasing their lap times. But it shows it's probably the right tire to be on at this stage. The filled markers are the lap times you have set, so you can quite easily see those. There are very few lap times being done on the soft tire right now. It's kind of a toss-off between doing wet tires or dry tires, but obviously with the amount of rain falling right now, we know that, okay, it's wet tire times. And I believe the AI doing the times right now are still struggling because they are not fully equipped to wet races. Next up is weather. It's like a small weather station that you have in your control. You can see the current weather parameters up here. You have temperatures like the track temp, air temp, and the dew point, humidity, wind direction and strength, as well as air pressure. You can also see indications on the direction it's currently taking. You can see the track temperature dropping, and that's generally a good thing because lower track temp means faster lap times and more grip, but obviously it's raining right now. It's actually not fully true, but the indicator will quickly give you an idea of how the track is changing. In the next row you have how the weather is right now. It's overcast, it's light rain reported by the sim. And the realistic term here tells you the type of weather system that's used on this server. It can be realistic, timeline, or static. Here you have the forecasts, where the 5-minute forecast is something DRE calculates. If you do official iRacing races, you will also be presented with future forecasts further ahead than the 5 minutes, and they seamlessly blend into this, so you'll get a good understanding of how the weather is going to be in the short term and in the longer term. But of course you can't be sure. Turning our attention to the graph down here, it's a timeline of the past events and past data. You can see how things have progressed over time since the start of this practice session until now, so 25 minutes roughly. You can see the track wetness is just becoming more and more saturated, and we can see over here on the weather radar that is going to continue for some while. Apart from the few things visible right here, you can right click the map and press configure, and then in the weather section you can choose whatever you want. I have a few different parameters that you can monitor, and there is also the option to show some prediction graph lines on the graph. So if we go back, you can see it now has these extended lines to figure out where the weather is going in the next period. This is also something that actually feeds into the 5-minute chart. But I've found in my work over the last 3 months that it's really hard to get a good understanding of how the weather is doing in, for example, 10 minutes, whereas the 5 minutes is way more stable and certain. So for now, we have the 5 minutes. Moving on to the lap times. This is also a really interesting place to see your performance relative to other drivers. You have 2 major graphs along with some stats up here. You can see the class leader fastest, the class fastest median time, and your fastest time versus your median time. And then over here, once you've done a couple of laps, you can see how consistent your lap times are, because you might be quick over 1 lap, but that won't work in the races where you have to be consistent to be fast. So DRE will try to come up with a number to indicate this. Apart from your own consistency, you can actually monitor other drivers' consistencies. These graphs have some deviation bars, and the vertically more narrow these are, the more consistent the drivers are. Right now, most of the drivers have been quite affected by the weather changing, out on dry tires and going off, setting really slow times, which is why they are literally off the chart. And up here, you have a more basic timeline of lap times set. It focuses on your own times versus the leader versus the position just ahead and behind you. And that will clearly indicate how you are faring against the others. Coming on to fuel, which is where you have everything you need to finish your race and optimize and tweak your fuel as much as possible. We have a few different sections that we can turn our attention to. First of all, we have the current fuel time remaining. That's roughly 12 minutes left in the tank. If we filled the tank to the full, we could do 1 hour and 42 with the current fuel numbers. We can do 27 laps and have a max of 236. For the next stop, DRE determined you should fill 66 liters. Here are the current stats that you are doing: 0.35 liters, which equates to 0.8 liters per minute. Obviously, these numbers will adapt to the units you are using. And over here, you have a glance of the fuel left in the tank, along with the number of stops left that you have to do in order to finish the race. Looking at the fuel usage tab, this indicates on a bar chart your fuel usage per lap over time, as well as a smoothed value. And this can indicate changes in the track and weather conditions that affect your fuel usage. So it's a good way of seeing if you should probably add a little bit extra on the next stop, or you should actually go a little bit lower, because there might be some tendency and trends that you can look out for. In the fuel strategy area, you can see the completed fuel history, how far you've taken each stint, where you stopped, how much you put in. And you will be able to see how much you need to fill at which point in order to make it home. The bar chart up here indicates the points in time in the future where you have to do something. The green area indicates the fuel pit window, meaning you can actually come in now, put on the 66 liters and then make it home. But you can actually also wait fully until lap 30-ish and then put fuel on and still make it home. So the chart down here is similar to the one above here, only it shows it with lines instead. And right now the fuel strategy uses something I call the early stopper strategy, where it tries to tell you how quickly you can enter pits while still making it home on the current fuel stop strategy. Down here we have some quick options to change the fuel buffer that you want to end up with. You can adjust it here. You can also tell it to top up the fuel for each pit stop until the last stop that you have to do, or you can tell it to more evenly split out the fuel that you need. Everything you see here is done through calculations that are based on historical fuel data, and you can change how many laps to take into account. If you press the configure button down here, you'll take into the fuel general area where you can define whether to use the top burning laps, meaning the worst case scenario where you use the most, or you can choose the first number of laps done or the last ones. It depends on the type of racing. For example, sometimes in oval, as you progress, you spend more and more fuel, and sometimes in road racing you spend less fuel as you deplete your fuel tank, and it all affects how the fuel is done. And then finally you can adjust how many laps to take into account. Moving on to the tire tab, this is where you can, like the fuel tab, monitor tires and their wear, their health, how it's doing, when you should change them. Up here you have the current statistics on the tires, how they're doing, how many laps they've done, how many laps is expected to still be in those tires, and the predicted tire degradation per lap in percentage. So right here you'll get a quick glance of your tire health. There are some historical data fed into the model here that predicts the real-time tire wear percentages. Overall, as you go, it will know more and more about your actual tire wear, because everyone is different. Everyone uses tires a little bit different. Some lean on them while braking, some brake more straight. The tire wear graph is a timeline of the tires that you run in this current session. You can see I started out here, did a few laps where it attempted to predict the tire wear. If I were to enter the pit and keep the tires on, the actual tire wear would be recorded and updating this entire chart, not only the historical tire wear, but also affecting the new future tire wear predictions. So as you go along, it will improve. So you can see the degradation where we turn right all the time. You can see there is a front left limited track where there's larger degradation on the front left tire. The critical tire wear option is something that you can adjust to control when DRE should warn you about having to change tires. So you can set it to 50% and it will warn you once one of the tires drops below this tire wear threshold. And finally we have the pit tab. We have everything you need for the next pit stop. So overall you can see how many stops are left up here. You can see we have one stop left, and actually in terms of having to fill fuel, we probably only need half a stop, but we still lose some time through this stop. We can see that if we were to enter the pit now, we could actually fill 40.7. Down here we have some information about the next pit stop that you are bound to take. We know that we need roughly half a tank, which is why DRE says that we need to fill 41 liters roughly. If you wanted to come in early and you didn't actually have space for everything, these two numbers would be way more different. So you could actually see exactly how much can I fill in the tank right now. And down here you can see what is actually set in the sim to be filled in the next pit stop. Right now it's 0. But if we continue to run, DRE would take over and automatically fuel and set 40.7 liters for the next stop. In the center column we have the tires that are bound to be changed. We can see the current setting is set to dry tires for the next one, but no tire change. If there were any tire change, these would light up. And finally over here we have some general time loss statistics. We have the pit lane loss, which is how much time we lose by driving through the pit lane compared to those racing outside. So it's 4.5 seconds. It's a fairly short pit lane here, so that's why. And then the pit time loss we see here is the actual time we are losing by going into the pits, driving through the lane, stopping in our box, taking the fuel, taking no tires, exiting the pit stall, going out on track and getting back up to speed. All that is accounted for, and that's 31.2 seconds. That time loss is fed into this pit exit graph here, where you can see where on track you are bound to exit. You can see if you expected to exit ahead or behind some competition, and that's actually really useful in terms of undercutting or overcutting on the fuel stops. Obviously, it's limited how much you can monitor these tabs while you're racing. But for pre and post race, this is really a vital tool to get a deeper insight into your sim racing performance. But if you got a spotter helping out, all of these views while you are racing is so valuable because it really gives you the edge and the details you need in order to succeed. And of course, the fuel and tire data is all automatically, seamlessly shared between you and your teammates, as long as you both have a DRE instance running. Whether you are the driver in loop or helping out as the spotter, the analytics suite gives you the vital data and insight, allowing you to take informed sim racing decisions. If you got any ideas for improvements to the existing or ideas for new stuff to add, feel free to suggest it in the DRE Discord. In the next video, we will take a look at how you can bind your controllers to get the ultimate sim rig set up to be able to interact with DRE. So see you then.